Welcome to Greedy Bitch, a podcast where we teach you to go from being burnt out, broke, and broken to healthy, wealthy, and happy. Building a grooming business on your terms. Here's your host, River Lee.
Classic ones and zeros, baby. I'm obsessed with you. Give it to me, baby. Give it to me, baby. Every Monday, every Monday. Everything I need.
You know that feeling when you leave work completely drained, not because the dogs were tough, but because the clients were. Let's talk about that. When clients truly value you, they don't make you feel guilty for setting boundaries. They respect your time, your prices, and your energy. Red flags aren't just annoying, they're expensive. You've worked your tail off and you're done saying sorry for wanting more. If that makes you a greedy bitch, well, good. Hey there, this is Greedy Bitch, where groomers trade burnout for boundaries and learn to love their business again. We're diving into the difference between guilt-based clients and soulmate clients, the one who actually make you love grooming again. Remember the clients who always asked for a discount or complained about price increases. You thought you were being kind by giving them a quote unquote deal, but it never made them loyal. They expected more every time. And the moment you enforced boundaries or raised prices, they left anyway or made you feel guilty. You realize that so many clients never asked for discounts. They booked regularly and even tipped more when you adjusted prices. Some even said that you should charge more and that you deserve it. Let's talk about a real life example. So I have a student who had a client named Barbara who completely guilted her into keeping her groom price at $45. She would tell the student that she couldn't justify paying more for her dog than she did for her own hair. Now that student felt bad and agreed to keep her at that price as long as she was the one grooming her dog. Later, when she hired an employee, she told her that she had to raise her price to the standard rate of $85. Now, doing some quick math here, right? That means that she's getting an almost 50% discount, okay? And that was $85 per hour, not just a flat $85. Keep that in mind. Barbara said, well, why can't you just keep grooming Sasha, Barbara's dog? That's when the student stuck up for her boundary. And guess what? Barbara left. And the funny thing was that the student found out later, she started going to a new groomer and she started paying them $85 for that same groom. That's when it hit her. And it felt so bad because it really was a tough time. Barbara was never that groomer's soulmate client. She realized just because someone is regular doesn't mean that they truly value you. Think about clients who are chronically late or ghost you on appointments. You try to be nice the first few times, but it disrupted your schedule and cost you money. Compare that to your soulmate clients who apologize, respect your time, and even brought a coffee as a thank you. I personally have had soulmate clients that would pay for, they would need to cancel an appointment. They would feel bad that it was so last minute and would pay for the appointment anyway. That's somebody who really values you and your time. Now, it's not about being mean, it's about protecting your peace and professionalism. Let's talk about another real life example. I had another student who had clients who ghosted them for 2 appointments. Again, sent reminders, all of that, but for better for worse, that those clients just didn't respect their time, just no call, no showed, right? So that student said she tried to be understanding. She made it sound like, you know, trying to be respectful. And what happened was the client made it sound like there were things going on in her life, and the student wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt. So when she finally came back, and this, of course, right? Of course, this student, client had two husky, like Malamute mixes. And again, if as groomers, we know if you don't get those dogs groomed regularly, they're going to be terrible messes, right? And so these dogs came in terrible shape. And what happened, right? Do you think that student charged her double or what should have been? No. Instead, again, she was too nice and didn't charge what that job really required, right? One of the dogs was so mad that she had to refer that dog to a vet to get part of the groom done. And instead of being grateful, that client got upset and wanted her to force that elderly dog into uncomfortable positions to get the job done. Again, if I were to ask you, is that the kind of person who is your soulmate client? Is your soulmate client somebody who would ask you, like, push out 2 appointments and then ask you to push an elderly husky Malamute mix past a point of comfort, right? Probably not. If you're listening to this podcast, I promise you that is not your goal as a groomer. So again, this is the moment that she realized these people were not her soulmate client. And this is so important, right? She should have stood her ground, protected her time, her energy, and honestly, that poor dog's well-being. But sometimes knowing isn't being, right? We know what we should do, but in that moment, it does take courage and it does take a level of commitment to turn around, step in, and say, nope, I'm not going to do this. And that's okay, right? We're not here to shame you. We're not here to judge you. What I'm here to do is empower you to start making decisions that are better for you. It's not uncommon to have emotional guilt trips. Okay. Again, a client who says, but my dog loves you. Can't you just squeeze him in? It's going to feel flattering, but it's really manipulative when you think about it, right? And sometimes flattery is manipulation in disguise. It's not your job to solve their poor planning or their last minute emergencies, right? I'm sorry, you don't accidentally get pregnant with a Shih Tzu. You chose to buy these dogs, right? You chose to keep them in a length that requires regular grooming. This is a decision that an adult made. And so, of course, you want to be there for the dog. But for better or for worse, guys, we have to protect our boundaries. You wouldn't want us to protect the boundaries as veterinarians or as vet techs, right? You wouldn't tell them, well, just squeeze them in anyway. You would say no to the veterinarian. You would say, please, you know, I understand if it's life or death. We're not talking about emergency medicine, right? But you would want them to protect their mental and emotional health. And for those of you guys that don't, I want to remind you of the suicide rate of veterinarians because of things like this, right? So a soulmate client will plan ahead and understand that respect goes both ways. Let's talk about a real life example. So I had a student who had a client who always told them how much they loved them and how much their dog loved them, right? It was like, you're like family. And they would even do things like invite them in for dinner and, they'd invite them out. Like it was one of those things that like, they thought that they were family, like they treated them so well. Well, it all sounded really sweet, but she'd constantly wait until the last minute to book and expected the student to bend over backwards to fit her in, right? And one time she even asked her to reschedule other clients just so she could get in sooner. And again, some people are not close with you. They're not your friend because they like you. They're friends with you because of what they get out of you. And that's really important. And it's really hurtful. And I'm so sorry if that hits too close to home. But sometimes people want to pretend to be your friend because they're hoping they can use that to manipulate you. And it may not be intentional, it may be a learned behavior, but it's something you really need to pay attention to. So that student had to realize being nice and being respected aren't always the same thing. Again, that client seemed nice on the surface, but she wasn't a soulmate client. And she would have saved herself so much emotional stress if she had let her go sooner or had set those boundaries sooner. Some people you can let into your circle, but some people, there's nothing you can do. You can't ever let them into your circle because if you do let them into your circle, they're going to abuse your trust. And is that really shitty? Yeah, of course it's really shitty. But is it the reality? Absolutely. What about the unrealistic expectation client? So maybe it's a matted doodle owner and they insist their dog wasn't that bad. Right? I love that. They come in like a flying mop and they're like, it's not that bad. So you may feel pressure to please them and you're worried they'll be upset when you have to shave them down, right? No one likes themselves a sacrificial lamb for Christmas. Nobody wants their dog bald like Mr. Clean. But you have to learn that your soulmate client will trust your expertise. They don't question your judgment. And I'm not saying they're not going to ask questions about why you're doing things, I want you to think about there's a difference between I don't understand, please explain to me and educate me, and I don't like your answer. So tell me why so I can poke holes in your argument. Those are two very different things, okay? I'm not saying they shouldn't ever question your authority, but are they coming from a place of, hey, I don't understand, can you please educate me so that I can protect this from happening in the future? Versus, I don't want you to do this. So tell me how, tell me why you're doing it, and I'm going to poke holes in your argument, so that I get my way. Those are two very different things, okay? A soulmate client will say, I trust you, do what's best for Fluffy. A red flag client will say, can't you just make it work? Or can't you just brush it out? Can't you just fit me in? It's not that bad. So let's talk about a real life example. So I think we've all had many, many clients, right? Many clients over the years. And a lot of them have been doodles, for better for worse. Like, I think doodles are a little bit better now in 2025 than they were, 10, 15 years ago. But there's still a lot of inconsistency and there's tons of coat types, right? So when a doodle owner comes in and insists that their dog wasn't that matted and that the groomer is just lazy for wanting to shave them down, right? This is not a conversation of, I didn't know I was wrong. Can you please explain it to me? Can you please help me stop this from happening in the future, right? This is, they wanted their dog to stay fluffy no matter what, even if it wasn't in the dog's best interest, even if the professional was saying it wasn't in the dog's best interest or in anyone's best interest, right? There's going to be a huge difference between soulmate clients who are going to allow you to choose humanity over vanity. They're going to trust your judgment. They want what's best for the dog, and they're genuinely appreciative. Those are the grooms that leave you feeling good at the end of the day and not drained. Speaking of drained, let's talk about the energy drain client, right? These are some of my favorites. If you guys have ever seen, if you guys have ever seen the shows What We Do in the Shadows, there is a character who is called Colin Robinson, and he is literally an energy vampire. So if you haven't seen that show, go look up some clips of that because this is exactly what I think of when I think of these energy drain clients, okay? So this is going to be someone whose dog you love, 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 but their parents exhaust you completely. This is the energy of complaining, gossiping, creating drama, nitpicking, especially when they're like, oh, I don't care. And then when you come back, they're like, oh, but I really want to like this. They're the kind of people that want you to be magical mind readers, right? And they just exhaust you. So let's talk about a real life example. So I had a student who had a client named Marcy. Now, Marcy was the kind of client who would leave my student completely emotionally drained every single time, to the point where she actually had to have her at the end of the day because she would have her as the last client of the day. She would groom Marcy's dog, and then she would like be like, I just need to go lay down on the couch. So she would literally, she was an at-home groomer. She would groom Marcy's dog, hand her back and then literally just walk, no shower, no nothing. Walk from our in-home salon to the couch, lay down, and just nap. And some of us have those clients, and some of us are like, why would you ever have those clients? Listen, nobody's perfect, right? So Marcy complained about something at every single appointment, and yet she kept coming back. And honestly, it never made sense to my student. She was like, I don't understand. If she doesn't like the groom, if she doesn't like the decor, if she doesn't like this, if she doesn't like this, like, I don't like the way the dog smells. I don't like the way you did this. It was like literally every single time, nothing ever got better. It just became chaos. And Marcy was incredibly particular and neurotic about her dog. Now, I will say this. Sometimes, we're just not the level of skill for someone and they need to go to a more skilled groomer. As somebody, I say, listen, I'm a great cat groomer, I'm a mediocre dog groomer. I love me a five strip. Give me a five strip, one length all over. I'm happy as a clam. If you brought in an Asian fusion, teddy bear style groom, like give me a Jess Rona, I can't do that. And I'm not going to try to do that. Why? Because you'll never be happy. And that's okay, right? Because there are those kinds of groomers out there and you should seek them out. So that's first things first. Sometimes we're taking on people that are not appropriate for our skill level, and that's okay. You know, if somebody wants a breed standard groom, do they want a pet level breed standard groom, or are they looking for somebody who shows and handles the breed and can really bring that out, right? So let's take that piece off the table because we're not talking about that person, right? We're talking about somebody who their dog maybe like twitches the entire time, like the Shih Tzus that kind of just bob their head up and down. And they're like, oh, I see this like one tiny hair right near their eye. And you're like, listen, your dog went home with two eyeballs. Be grateful, right? Or the kind of client, I had one client one time, oh my God, that literally she like went home and she was very upset and she sent me a picture. She's like, oh my God, his face is so uneven. And I was like, nope, I've got the after photo. And this is again why I suggest doing before and after photos. She's like, oh my God, his whole side of his face is so smushed in. And I was like, okay, send me a picture. The dog had been laying down, and so his face had just had it smushed from being laid down on. And I said, if you just like fluff it up, it'll fluff up. No sorry, no, I didn't know, just click, just done. So you're going to have those people as well. Another example, right, is I had a client who, me personally, and I've told the story 1,000 times, but it never gets old. I had a client who was Portuguese, and that's really important because sometimes I worry about there's a language barrier, and sometimes you don't know if someone is trolling you, if there's a language barrier. Things can happen for different things. But she'd bring this adorable cockapoo, and this cockapoo was a total sweetheart, just lovely, all the things. But she wanted him to look like a little Dutch boy. Now, like I said, there was, and this is before we had Google Translate and everything. I was like, maybe there is some kind of language barrier here. And I had an idea. I was like, maybe she wants like a little Bob or something. Let me tell you what, I made this dog look like every little Dutch boy I could think of. And I even asked her to bring me in photos. And again, remember, this is, you know, 2011, 2012, which it's a long time ago now. Oh my God, it's 13 years ago. you know, Cell phones, Instagram, there wasn't as many options to look things up, okay? It was a little bit harder. But that said, did she bring me in a picture of a cockapoo in the haircut she wanted? No. Did she bring me a picture of a dog at all? No. What she brought me was like an oil painting of a little Dutch boy. And I was just like, I don't know what to do, ma'am. And to this day, I don't know if she like got a kick out of it and she was like, oh man, I'm gonna like make this groomer crazy, or if there was just, now I would love to have like Google Translate to see if we could like communicate. Because again, I didn't speak any Portuguese. She spoke very little English, and sometimes things like that'll happen. But I think about that lady. She lives rent free in my head, probably more than I should admit, because I was like, I don't know what to do. I wonder if that dog is out. He's probably gone now, but I wonder if he finally one day got his little Dutch boy haircut. So I don't have an answer for you, but again, that client I would dread because I'm like, I cannot in my head figure out what that is. Like I just could not. And even when I asked for photos, I mean, it was literally like an oil painting of a picture of a little Dutch boy. I don't even know if that boy was Dutch, but her interpretation of a little Dutch boy, right? So these kinds of clients are going to help you open your eyes to how much energy they take, right? These kinds of clients are the kind of people that suck you emotionally dry. And when your day is filled with soulmate clients instead, it's a completely different experience, right? You're going to finish your day fulfilled, calm, and genuinely excited to do it all again tomorrow. I will tell you, the start of my grooming business when I had my shop towards when I sold it, completely, completely different, totally different. Um, from the time I started my cat business the right way to the time I sold it, completely different business because my cat business was all all soulmate clients. And it was so easy and so much more effortless. It wasn't even that it was all cats, it's that I only accepted soulmate clients and I let go of people that were not right for me. So, soulmate clients, guys, are not going to guilt you. They're just going to get you. They respect your boundaries, your time, and your talents. They're going to make this career sustainable for you. They're going to make it joyful for you. And once you stop tolerating red flag clients, you're going to start creating space for the ones that truly value you. Your important thing to do this month, especially, is to protect your peace, charge what your services are worth, and stop mistaking guilt for gratitude. Okay. You work really, really hard at what you do. There's no reason for you to allow people to take from you. And honestly, this is a great opportunity for you to start making some notes, start gathering some data. Starting in 2026, you can absolutely start making the changes needed. All right, guys, that's it for this week's episode of Grady Bitch. If this hits home, share with a fellow groomer who needs permission to say no without guilt. If you haven't already, feel free to grab your free holiday boundary script at savvygroomer.com/holiday boundaries. This is going to be able to help you create some boundaries and have some scripts. Until next time, stay grateful and as always, stay greedy, bitch.
Thanks for listening. Find us on social media at The Savvy Groomer and online at savvygroomer.com. Subscribe to be notified for our new episodes. Until next time, happy grooming.